Abir Muhaisen is the most mysterious person in the Jordanian royal family. She is the sister of King Abdullah II, adopted by his father King Hussein. A fate of hardship and poverty awaited her, but at the age of 3, her life changed dramatically and Abir found herself in the royal family. The kings gave her lavish gifts and her best friend was the famous Princess Haya. But after a happy childhood spent in Jordan's royal palace, she was allegedly kicked out of there. What really happened? How did an ordinary orphan make such an incredible journey? Did she become a princess and how does she live today? Subscribe to our channel, give us your likes. Let's get started. The story of how Abir Muhaisen got into the royal family as a penniless orphan could serve as the plot for a Hollywood movie that is based on real events. In 1976, a civil war was raging in Lebanon, which brought a lot of casualties and destruction to the country. In one of the fighting, an airplane was shot down, and it fell directly on the house of Palestinian refugees, in which lived a poor but happy family Muhaisen. Only the father and daughter survived the blast. Her mother, brothers and sisters were burned in the fire. The girl's name was Abir, and from that day on she began a new life. The survivors were transported to a refugee camp near the Jordanian capital Amman. From there, the injured were sent to King Hussein Medical Center. Abir, a 3-year-old Palestinian girl, was among them. At the same time, the wife of the Jordanian king, Aliyah al-Hussein, was at the clinic. She had a painful wisdom tooth and came to have it removed. At the medical center, the queen was told about an unusual little patient who had lost her mother and all her siblings. The girl spent 4 hours under the rubble of her own home surrounded by dead relatives. Abir was brought to the hospital, washed from sand and dust, and then began a long treatment. The girl's immune system had been severely weakened by the horrific stress. Measles, pneumonia, and a number of other diseases were added to her wounds. Queen Aliyah felt so sorry for the little Palestinian that she took her treatment under her personal control. Aliyah visited not only Abir but also her father. He told the queen that he had to give his daughter to an orphanage. It was an extremely hard decision. However, he had no home left, no money, and not even relatives who could help in bringing up the child. Then the First Lady of the state made one of the major decisions of her life. She firmly decided to take Abir into her family and bring her up as her own child. The girl's grateful father cried on the queen's shoulder for 2 hours. It was both tears of grief at parting with his daughter and joy at the fact that she would not be in an orphanage, but in the palace. Aliyah was the third wife of King Hussein ibn Talal of Jordan. Since they had no children of their own, the decision was doubly noble. Interestingly, at the time of Abir's adoption, the queen was pregnant with Princess Haya, about whom we have told you many times. Subsequently, the freedom-loving Haya and the long-suffering Abir would become best friends and sisters, if not by blood, then by spirit. King Hussein, who returned from a business trip to London, was very surprised. He had expected his wife to give birth only 6 months later. But his wife met him at the airport with a 3-year-old daughter. The monarch fully approved of his wife's decision and was immediately enchanted by the unexpected daughter. He swore that no one and never hurt the girl again, neither physically nor morally. As it will turn out later, the monarch completely kept his promise. Abir was brought up on an equal footing with the 12 native children of the king. The girl practiced sports, learned foreign languages and eventually received a brilliant home education. The first year of her life in the royal family was particularly happy, and then another terrible loss befell the Palestinian. In February 1977, her adoptive mother, Queen Aliyah al-Hussein of Jordan, died. It happened as a result of a ridiculous airplane crash. The helicopter on which she was returning to Amman from a refugee hospital crashed. There were no survivors. Abir was left without a mother for the second time in her life. According to Princess Haya's memories, she truly bonded with Abir during those terrible times. 3 years older than Haya, her half-sister was a real comfort to her. They would often cry while reminiscing about their mother. And then Abir would invariably say, "Mom looks up to me and I have to look up to you as she looks up to me. I will do so always." The half-sisters' touching friendship and sibling relationship has lasted a lifetime. Abir Muhaisen lived in the royal palace until she was 16 or 17 years old. It is not known whether she was officially given the title of princess or whether her status as a foster child was still an obstacle. In any case, Queen Noor mentions her as a princess. There is a version that the girl was offered to become a princess, but in this case she would have had to accept the rules of life of the higher aristocracy. It is likely that she wouldn't have been able to marry of her own accord, as princesses often enter into dynastic marriages of convenience. Apparently, the girl refused such restrictions and preferred to build a life on her own. In the late 1980s, she traveled to the United States to study as a private citizen. In her passport, her name was written as Abir Muhaisen, not Abir al-Hussein. This could mean that the girl decided to keep her original name. Some biographers of the Jordanian royal family specify that the rules of Islam welcome the care of orphans, but do not recommend giving them the surname of the new family, so that the person will retain the memory of his or her ancestry and can identify blood relatives if they meet on life's journey. Anyway, the third life of poor orphan Abir, who almost became a princess, started in America. The girl received a bachelor's degree from the American University of Washington. In the early 1990s, she graduated from the Medical University of Virginia. Here she studied sports management and, according to some reports, works in this field to this day. In 2006, she married a professional NBA basketball player. She spends a lot of time helping orphans who are not as fortunate as her. This year, the Palestinian girl turned exactly 50 years old. Her birth father and adoptive father died a long time ago. Despite immigration, the woman has maintained warm relations with her relatives from the royal family. It is known that she was at almost all the weddings of half-brothers and sisters. She was also seen at the marriage anniversary of the current King Abdullah II of Jordan and his wife Rania. Unfortunately, the Palestinian woman cannot be found in any of the photos taken at numerous family events. Abir chose a fate without royal duties. In return, she received a free private life in the United States and the right to marry for love. King Hussein's adopted daughter has exercised her right to privacy, and for security reasons, she doesn't lead a social life to keep out of the tabloids. This is probably the best choice for her instead of the princess title and aristocratic status. Subscribe to the channel, put a like. See you soon.